What's up, soulmates? In today's video, guys, we are going to be making this bustier crop top. It's so cheeky. Yeah. So guys, I told you guys we are going to be wearing this crop top in two ways. That was the first way you can wear it, and this is another way you can wear it. That's why I told you guys in the video that I'm not going to be attaching my sleeve to my crop top. So now let's dive into the video. All style originates from a basic bodice pattern. So now we have our basic bodice pattern here, as you can see, and this is for the front because the style we are sewing has the zip allowance at the front, so we have it here. And now we have our neckline, shoulder slope, armhole area, and this is the chest line. I'm just creating this basic body so you guys will understand. This is my bust point line, this is the under bust, and this is the waist line. Okay, so I came down by 1 inch after my half length. So now I'm going to mark in my bust palm measurement, nipple to nipple. So I have it as 4 inches. Okay, so you go ahead and mark your bust palm measurement. So you guys know that when it comes to my pattern, sometimes I like adding my allowance to the pattern so that I can cut direct on my fabric. Sometimes I neglect the allowance, and I'll do that later on the fabric. So in this case, I divided my nipple to nipple by 2, added ½ inch to it, and that gave me 4 inches. Now you can go ahead and rule your bust pan line, that's the nipple to nipple. Now at the top here, I'm going to come down by 8 inches. This is determine how deep you want your center front to be. So for me, I'm going by 8 inches. And still on the dart line from the top, I'm going to come down by 6 inches. Okay, this is to create a sweetheart neckline for this top. So if you don't want to show cleavages like that, the place I took 8 inches, you can just take 6 inches also, or 7 inches. So now I'm marking in my bustier. Okay, so I'm going by 2 inches. So this is it. I'm going to use my armhole curve to trace it to where I have the 2 inches mark. Then after that, I'm going to come to my waistline and I'll mark in also 2 inches, and I'll connect with my ruler. So in marking in your measurements, if your waist circumference is larger than your under bust measurement, you are going to make use of your waist measurement to mark in. If not, you make use of your under bust measurement. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to insert my basic measurement. So on my bust line here, I'm going to divide my bust measurement by 4, and I will insert. So I have it as 10 inches, so I'm going to mark in my 10 inches on the bust line, and I'll also mark the same 10 inches on the chest line. So this is my under bust. I will insert my under bust measurement, and I will mark in my measurement. I have it as 8.4. Okay, so that is what I'm marking in, and I also took the same measurement on my waist line. So this is all about my basic measurements, and I'm going to connect with my ruler from the bust line to the under bust, and from the under bust to the waistline. So now I'm just marking in my bust measurement on the chest line also, and I'll connect. So there you go. So the next thing I'll be doing is to connect to create my sweetheart neckline. So with my armhole curve, I'm going to place the curve this way as you see me doing. Okay, and I'll trace to where I have my 8 inches mark. Okay, so this is for the front, and from that point I'm also going to connect straight into my armhole area as you see me doing now. So the next thing is to connect the lines to my zip area. So when cutting, I'm going to cut like the way you are seeing the lines now. So the next thing I'm going to do is to insert my dart. So at the side I took 1 inch for my dart, while towards the center front I took ½ inch. Okay, so I'm going to connect from that point to my bust point. So now we have the dart. Okay, so the 1½ inch we took, 1 inch for the side and half for the front, that makes it 1½. I'm going to add another 1½ inch for seam allowance, making it 3 inches. So that's why I marked 3 inches over them. So at the waistline I took 2 inches. I'll mark that in, and I'll also mark 1½ for my allowance. Okay, so you can see as I'm separately doing that, not to get you guys confused, 2 inches and 1½ for allowance. Okay, so whatever you take as your dart, you are going to replace it back before taking your allowance. If not, you run short of fabric. So after doing that, you are going to connect the lines. So the next thing is to add allowance at the top part of my crop top, because I'm going to be using ½ inch to turn the basic bodice to the main lining. Okay, so now I'm marking in my ½ inch. So you can measure it out like the way I'm doing, but if you can just mark this out without measuring, that's okay. And notice that around the armhole I blend it. I didn't leave it pinpointed like that. I blend it out. So the next thing is to connect all these markings, and as you connect, you blend. So now guys, I'm done blending the ½ inch allowance for the upper part, as you can see, and down here I also have my ½ inch at the lower part of the top. Can you see? Unfolding my pattern paper, you can see I have ½ inch. So I'm just going to use my ruler to trace it out, so you will not forget that you have to cut from there. So I'm just bringing down the other lines I've created already. So the next thing to do now is to cut it out. And now we have the back bodies. Okay, and I already have my chest line, bust point line, under bust, waistline. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to mark in my measurements, 10 inches for the bust line and chest line, then 10 inches, marking it on the chest line, come down to the under bust, mark my 8.4 inches, the same thing on the waistline. So after marking it in, I'm going to add 1 inch for that. Okay, because the back is going to carry that, so I'll insert my 1 inch for that. That is after connecting these lines. So now on the waistline, my 1 inch for that plus 1.5 inches for seam allowance, that's 2.5. So on my waistline, I'm going to mark 2.5 inches on the under bust, because you know, as you sew the dart from the top, from the bottom to the top, it tapered out at the top. So now on my under bust, I'll mark 2 inches. Okay, then at my chest line here, I'm going to mark 1.75. You know, when you sew your dart from the waistline, it will taper out at wherever you want it to end. So because of that, that is how we applied our allowances to it. So I'm connecting the lines now, and as soon as you are done connecting the lines, you are good to go. You can cut out your pattern paper. So now I'm just cross-checking my allowances and it's okay, and I'm going to continue with the connection. So the next thing I'm going to do at the chest line here, I'm going to roll it up, okay, to the center front. And remember that our back bodice is on fold, okay, because we already have the zip at the front bodice. So now at the 1 inch that I mark, I'm going to slope down to that 1 inch, because I just don't want the neckline for the back to be this straight. So that's why I sloped it this way. So if you want, you can leave your own straight. If you want, you can also slope it this way. So now I'm adding 1/2 inch for allowance, okay, joining the back bodice to the lining. So that's the 1/2 inch I've created. And at the lower part, you are also going to add your 1/2 inch, which I've already done. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut it out. And here guys, I have my pieces. I've attached a gum stay to it. I ironed a gum stay. This is a very light gum stay, or rather pepper stay, a very light one. So I have my 2 front pieces here, the center front and the side, and I have them with the linings, as you can see. And I also have my back piece and the lining, and this is my 2 sleeves. Okay, I'm going to be using band to attach the upper and lower part of the sleeve. So I'm just going to join these pieces together and I'll bring it back to show. So guys, here on the table I have my center front and my side front joined together. As you can see, I've joined it, and I've also gone ahead to iron it out. Can you see that? All right, and I've also done the same thing to the lining, and I also top stitched on the lining, as you can see. And I've also dat my back fabric. This is the lining and this is the main fabric. I've dat it. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to place my front bodice onto the back bodice, and I will take 1.5 inch to sew. Okay, the 1.5 inches allowance we left, that is what I'm going to sew. I'm also going to do that to the lining, and I'll bring it to the table to show you guys. But before then, you can see this place popping out. Okay, I'm going to place it together like this. Okay, and I'll trace it out to avoid all this. You see, we have like 1/2 inch shortage at the front bodies. So to avoid this, you can, at that your dart line, you can go up by 1/2 inch, and this kind of thing will not occur. So to avoid that, just go up by 1/2 inch. So now I'll just cut off the excess, but if you have an excess like this, it's fine, just cut it off. Okay, and do the same thing to your lining. So guys, Here on the table I have my main fabric attached to my lining, okay, with the seam allowance of 1/2 inch at the upper part and also at the lower part. So this is the lining side of it. Okay, you see how neat and beautiful it appears. So the next thing I'm going to do is to attach my zip at the center front. You know, the zip is going to be at the center front, so I'm going to attach the zip. Okay, so for the sleeve, if you want, you can attach your sleeve at the side. Okay, you can attach it, but in my own case I choose not to attach it because I want to be able to wear this top in 2 ways. Okay, in a situation where I'll wear it with the sleeve, and also I can also wear it I can wear it with my jacket. Okay, just like you saw in the video. So you can go ahead to attach your sleeve if that's what you want. So this is the top. So the next clip you'll be seeing is me putting on this beautiful top. Please guys, I noticed that I didn't add the clip for the sleeve, so this is it. Okay, I just have to add it so you guys can be able to see what I did. I know some of you can cut the sleeve without even seeing how I did mine, but for those of you, for my beginners that want to see every bit of the tutorial, so this is it. So my hand length is 18 inches. I added 4 inches extra, okay, so that it will help me to fold the upper part and the lower part of the sleeve. As you can see, it has band from the picture, right? So at the upper part I'm measuring 15 inches for the allowance, everything, even the folding. So at the lower part I measured 20 inches because I want this sleeve to be very full. Okay, so at the upper part my bicep is 14 inches. So to know the amount of band they are going to use, so 14 inches I minus 2 inches from that gave me 12 inches. So that is what I use for the upper part of the band. Then for the lower part of the band I measured my wrist, okay, and I got, I think, 7 inches or thereabout, and I just used the band 7 inches. I didn't minus anything from it, and that was what I used for the lower part. Now I'm connecting my line from the upper to the lower part. So after doing this, you just have to cut it out, and that is it for the sleeve.